Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, June 6th regular meeting of the Novi Board of Education. Thank you for being here and joining us this evening. If you would do a roll call vote for me, please, Mr. Mena.
Trustee Cook. Here. Trustee Hood.
Here.
Trustee Mena here. Trustee Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Roney.
Here.
Trustee Ruskin.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here. Full house.
All right, fantastic. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would appreciate a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd move to approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll support that. All right, it's been moved by Mr. Smith and supported by Mrs. Hood. I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Motion carries 7-0. Now, we normally would have a student board member report, but we are going to see if they run in late and plug them back in if they show up, because I actually have something for them this evening. So hopefully somebody from our middle school will show up, and if not, we'll make sure we get those over to them. In the meantime, we will move directly to reports to the board. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Over the past several months, a Facilities and Program Committee has met to review district facilities and programs. The charge for the committee was, 1, improve, expand our facilities and programs to optimize the school day experience for students, teachers, and staff at all levels to ensure that students are passionate, empowered, and prepared for their world and their future. And 2, the committee will review our facilities and programs to provide impactful opportunities for all to cultivate lifelong learning. Tonight, members of the committee will present an overview of the committee's deliberations and their recommendation for the district. At a June 13th, 2019 special board meeting, the board will examine closely the report, the recommendation, and the options for moving forward. It is hoped that the board will be able to make a decision on moving forward at the June 20th, 2019 board meeting. So tonight is information. Next week is our opportunity for discussion. So we would encourage you to listen. I believe that we'll have additional information to share with the board so that you can review it between now and next Thursday. But next Thursday is our opportunity for the discussion. So
Before we get started, if we do have questions during discussion, should we just write them down
Yep,
and
just
hang
write
on to them?
write them down, send them to me so that we can get answers to them before next Thursday's meeting, and we can proceed that way.
Okay.
And so I would invite the committee to come to the podium and introduce yourself and then start the presentation.
Hi, good evening. My name is Katie James, and I teach chemistry at the high school. I am one of the Facility and Program Committee members here this evening to present our recommendations. I was a student at Novi High School during the major addition in the early 2000s. Being a part of this committee to recommend the latest district improvements has been truly inspiring. I was greatly impressed by the committee's dedication to facility and program improvements that would improve the lives of each and every student within our district. We are confident in our recommendation, and we hope you become as excited as we are about the wonderful benefits of bringing this proposal to our voters. We will briefly review the FPC's process this evening, but our main focus will be on the recommendation. The FPC's charge, as Dr. Matthews said, was to look at all of the things that have happened within the district and our needs moving forward. We began with this charge and worked to form consensus around a plan to review our school facilities and programs to provide impactful opportunities for all students to cultivate lifelong learning. We had representatives from across the district and the community that joined our committee to meet. Here's a few pictures of us in this room at some of our early meetings. We had 3 basic steps in our process. The first was discovery, where as a committee we learned foundational information about the district as it stands today. Then we moved on to exploration, where we worked to react to concepts and ideas that support the school's mission and vision. And now here tonight, we have come with our recommendations. We had 4 committee meetings in April and May, and then 2 community engagement sessions where we met with community members to get feedback on the ideas that the committee had come with that far. In our very early phases of discovery, we looked at facility audits from all of the buildings, program assessments to see how our programs could improve and evolve in years to come. We incorporated our mission, vision, and values into discussions and looked at modern learning trends across the nation. As always, we started with the mission, vision, and values. It was important to ground our work in what matters to the district. And we looked at the steady increase of 5-year enrollment over the past 5 years. We also, for historical purposes, looked at the 2007 bond project summary, which focused on security in all buildings, instructional technology, and equitable K-4 building additions and renovations. And we looked at the 2014 bond project summary. Once we had looked at the past and reviewed our mission, vision, and values, we then moved on to the facility and site audit from our current building needs. This looked at the building exteriors and interiors, HVAC and plumbing and electrical needs, with an approximate value of about $38 million in critical and imminent upgrades. Then a comparison report was done across all of the buildings to look at different things that were offered, available, or missing. And the approximate value of program enhancements across the buildings was $62 million and a technology enhancement of $24 million. We ended our exploration and discovery phase by looking at modern learning trends. And some of the favorite modern learning trends of our committee were acoustically safe and calm large spaces such as cafeterias and media centers, cross-curricular flexible learning spaces for students, improved dining experiences, and safe and secure, beautiful entrances to all of our buildings. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Bhavani Kaneru. I'm a high school parent and one of the members of the FPC. I've been living in Novi for the past 20 years. I have 2 daughters. One of them has just graduated, and the other one is going to be a sophomore next year. And I'm a very proud parent of Novi School District, and also admire this district strides to improve education and facilities to facilitate the state-of-art education to our community. And I'm very happy that I'm part of this particular committee so that I can make those recommendations that are needed for the facilities. So the district financial consultant, CFM, has presented a clear understanding of how the bond and the sinking funds work. Their analysis also included very detailed on specific Millage situation at the Novi Community School District. And this chart illustrates a unique opportunity that the district has right now with the ability that to the bond for approximately $193 million of work without increasing any taxes or millage rate. And there's no increase to the millage rate. And this next graph shows us the millage projection, with the gray showing our existing millage and also the blue showing the proposed millage. So there is 0 changes to our taxes. The next part is we have moved on to exploration after our discovery stage. Then we had lots of information coming from our discovery stage and the knowledge we acquired. We started talking about exploring what are the different proposals going forward. So one of our exercises is we participated in was to select a word that depicts what would we like to see in the future of Novi School District. And this word graphic illustrates the results of that exercise with innovative, flexible, STEM, forward-thinking, modern being the highlights of what the committee thought about. So then we have actually prioritized a number of previously initial objectives that were formed out of the assessment process, and to gain an understanding of where the committee should actually focus on the potential bond program projects. During the exploration, we reviewed the preliminary concepts of each school and had discussions about pros, cons, and concerns regarding these ideas. The concepts were refined before the final ideas and concepts became a part of this recommendation. Community engagement. We have actually had 2 community engagement sessions held by our professional team and the district staff where they shared the FPC conducted discussions and the focus discussions to gain feedback on the proposed initiatives. So the key during these sessions was to educate the community and actually sit back and listen to what they have to provide us as a feedback. We asked 2 very straightforward questions regarding their support to the future bond initiative based on what they have learned from the presentation that was presented that evening to them. And overwhelmingly, they have actually said very strongly supported for going forward with the bond proposal. And also to renew the building and the site sinking fund. This was certainly a confidence builder for the committee because we could move forward with what we are trying to accomplish. Then we also had a very in-depth conversations with the participants regarding 5 key areas of proposed bond program, including critical infrastructure and program updates, where we saw an excellent support from the community. They actually said, we do need them. You can see 100% on one of them, 92% on one of them, very strong agreements. We then discussed the 5th and 6th grade edition and the new community school activity center. And those 2 also were very strongly supported by the community. The new natatorium at middle school did not receive the encouraging agreement. So, but the discussion at the table pointed out that the professionals team has to investigate more into another approach of upgrading our actual existing high school natatorium. So the professional team went back to work on the ideas surrounding the upgrades to the high school natatorium and also in the looking at the alternatives to providing the robotics activities. Because it's a very big increasing population for robotics that needs a lot of space. We were presented, the committee back again was presented by the professional team, a refined concepts for those areas as well as more details at each building. We had in-depth discussion for the ideas within the committee and formed consensus around the recommendations that is being presented to you by Chris now.
Good evening. On behalf of the Facility and Program Committee, we'd like to present to you kind of an overview of the features and details of the bond program recommendation. So my name is Chris Harpenow. I am the proud father of twin 7th grade girls at the middle school. And we lived in Novi since about 2005. And I also currently serve as the board president for Your Novi Educational Foundation. And I'm very proud to do that today. So I was really proud to serve on this group, or in this group, and exploring the different options and seeing the professionalism that the guidance, the team members that they brought forward, and then listening to community members as well, and seeing how we can improve, how we can continue to really make Novi a great destination and a place to live. So. And so to say, that we are excited about the possibilities, about these options, is definitely an understatement. There were many hours spent by, of course, many people in this, from our committee group itself to the administration, our resource members. I think as Katie mentioned, we had 4 different steering committee meetings And then we had 2 community engagement sessions, and those were really, for me, those were eye-opening, to kind of, hear another set of voices, and to see another set of perspectives, and really getting some of the feedback that Bhavani was sharing as well, to kind of see, is there a favor, does the community agree with this, or do they strongly agree with it, kind of in where they fit in that. And as I mentioned before, is that we want our district, we want our city to remain a place where people want to come move, they want to come live, and be a true destination district, a destination community. So our recommendation for the November 5th, 2019 ballot is a bond initiative for a $183 million amount. And as was mentioned earlier as well, this would be a 0 millage increase, which would have no change in the tax base. And you can see all of the highlights here. But what they really kind of go back to is kind of the overarching theme that I think Katie was mentioning as well, as going to those impactful opportunities for lifelong learning, and the possibilities that we have to fund program enhancements. Of course, there's critical infrastructure as well that needs to be addressed, but keeping Novi at the forefront of education. So a little bit of the details, a little bit an overview, and so what you will see is that these are the pictures shown are concepts. These are not final designs, but when it was kind of going through the process of looking at the different buildings, what is needed immediately versus what are some possible program enhancements. And so what you see on this page here is they're kind of divided into 2 sections, but you'll see those kind of common themes throughout the variety of the pictures. And so the infrastructure, some of these critical infrastructure upgrades as far as the overall site, the roof, boilers, HVAC, electrical, interior. And then when we talk about program enhancements, such as safe and secure entries, looking at the cafeteria, how the students are served, looking at acoustics throughout the buildings, looking at some of the media centers, and are there upgrades that we can bring to that as well. Career Exploration Center, collaboration spaces, also addressing the location and optimizing the location for our special education, and then a couple additional things. But overall, you'll kind of see some of those common themes in all of the picture overviews. So this is Deerfield, and you'll see in the yellow is that those are the infrastructure areas, and then some of the different colors. You'll see some of those common themes. So we're talking about the collaboration spaces, and you'll see some of that safe and secure entry as a common theme as well. Acoustics, technology, the media center, furniture, upgrades, cafeteria, serving lines, acoustics, and you'll see a career exploration as well. So this is Deerfield. We have Novi Woods, safe and secure entry again, shared collaboration spaces, career exploration, media center. At Parkview, similar themes. At Orchard Hills, there's some changing of the office remodeling a little bit there, possibly, in order to change up the secure entry. At Village Oaks, and last is the Early Childhood Education Center. So here we have a small addition and then some repurposing, a little bit of change in some of the areas that are currently there. Mr. Wright.
Good evening. I'm Chuck Wright. Like Chris, I arrived in 2005 with my family. And this was definitely a destination district for us. It was the deciding factor in where we chose to live. I'm very happy to have had 3 kids go through the school system. The last one graduated just last year. I'm really happy to be part of this committee, as I was in 2014, because I want to continue to help Novi be that destination district that my colleagues have talked about here. I think when we see the enrollment that Katie talked about going up every year, our neighboring districts don't see that. They're losing kids. That's something that we should be very proud of, and we should recognize that it's these investments that are getting us there. And I'm going to click. What am I doing? Okay, let's start off with the middle school. I'm going to continue where Chris left off. We had one major proposal for the middle school that Levani talked about, the natatorium, that did not get the community feedback that we were hoping for. So the focus was on more incremental, let's see here. I'm going backwards now. Help me out, where am I clicking? Oh, I'll just use the arrows here. Okay. It's backwards, there we go. Okay, here we are on the middle school. I got it. What you'll see are some incremental changes here. Without the natatorium, we chose to kind of focus on some very specific areas. There's an addition up in the upper right to the music room, and that music, the existing space is being renovated. The cafeteria is being enhanced. There is a new media center addition kind of in the middle of the square there, and the media center upgrades. There's also some shared collaboration spaces on the outside. At the high school, we see the same program enhancements. Secure office or entry in office is a huge concern. That was something that a lot of us talked about. At the high school, when you go in, you're buzzed in and you walk across the atrium with somebody guiding you, clear across to find a place to get a pass, and it's just kind of a mess. We need to really make that much more secure and user-friendly. There will be some additional collaboration spaces, media center remodeling. This is all in the bucket that was approved virtually 100% by the community. And this graphic kind of shows you where some of those are. Up in the upper left, we see the new secure entry area. I draw your attention to the far right there. We've got a great big red box with green in the middle. That's the activity center. That was proposed and got 87% support from the community engagement folks. There were 6 that were neutral, so only a few really didn't think it was a good idea. But what we're envisioning is a huge turf field here, indoors, completely enclosed for use all seasons of the year by all programs. So all the sports, band, cheer, pom, everybody, all classrooms could be in there. The community can use it. I think it's a huge, very visible example of what we can do to enhance the community. And the uses of it are just without limit. We have just some statistics. In grades 7 through 12, the participation in at least one sport is far over 50%. And in high school, it's much higher than that. And in participation in extracurricular activities is over 80% at the high school. This can be used by virtually any class or any sport. This is a proposed enhancement to the pool at the high school. The pool itself is fine. It's of adequate capacity. There's not a scheduling problem. The issue is seating and stands for observation. What you're seeing off to the right, the red area, is an expansion of the pool area to put decking and seats in. And you see the blue corridor there, and then the sloped roof off to the right is the side of the activity center that I just talked about. So that would be quite a large building. There was some discussion on robotics. We have a very robust robotics program in Novi, and we have, frankly, a lot of engineer families in Novi. It's a big draw. It's very important to a lot of families, and they're growing out of their space. There's a couple of proposals that are shown here on how to accommodate an expansion of the robotics program. The first one on your left would be an addition to kind of the back by the athletic parking lot, adjacent to the auto tech area. The second would be an expansion addition to the top of the activity center, the north side right by the tennis courts there. The costs that we're quoting in here were really based on option number one. We're not sure about the cost of the other option, although that's kind of being debated right now. That location is to be determined. This is one of the larger line items we're going to see that's a non-program item. This is an enhancement, but it is to the 5th and 6th grade building right out here. This is a big one. The issue here is at the 5th and 6th grade, they are now separated. And we've got a lot of community ed programs in that same building. What this would do is put all the kids in the middle in the pink area and move the community ed to the orange up in the upper left. And the section down at the bottom, the light green, would be the center-based programs and the adult transition center. So we'd like to provide greater services to that population as well. What this would take, and this is a more detailed drawing, we would need to make the center part of the 5th and 6th grade 2 stories. So that's going to be a large construction project. In the back, we see an additional pink area. That is 2 gymnasiums and a large cafeteria to serve the 5th and 6th grade as well. Then you've got some green spaces there for outdoor learning, but it would bring all of the kids together. And that one also received quite high community approval. The last thing this plan would do would be clear up a lot of congestion. They would reroute the busing and everything to make this a lot easier for the parents to deal with. And now I want to give you some financials. What's all this going to cost? We've heard the figure, $193 million. Let's see how that breaks down. The infrastructure and the programs, $112.5. That's really the necessary stuff. That includes everything that Chris talked about at the elementary schools. The 5th and 6th grade, $54 million. So that's the big one. The community center, $14.2. And that's the activity center. The multi-purpose space, let's see, that is an addition. That's the addition on top of in the north end of the activity center, that the red area at the very top of the rectangle. The robotics program location, 4436, is, we would stick to that in either case, whichever option we chose, but I think that figure was based on the first option by the Auto Tech Center. And then the last one is the swimming pool natatorium. Again, you've heard this a few times. The goal, as it was a few years ago, no increase in the millage. I think that's a good selling point for us. And thank you. Just wanted to lend my support to this as I did 5 years ago. This is a great opportunity for us to invest in our community and really continue to make this a shining star in the state of Michigan. What I'd like to do now is pass out copies of the presentation for you and a thumb drive with all the documents.
was just gonna ask if it would be available to us, so thank you. Thank you.
So this will give you all the information that you saw tonight. The thumb drive has kind of the appendices and extra information, and so all of you will have access to this, and this will be the basis of our conversation next week on Thursday. And if you do have questions or concerns or didn't understand something this evening, I would encourage you to communicate those questions through me, and I will communicate it to Cabinet and then back out to you to get answers. But this presentation really was about giving you the information tonight and then allowing us to kind of think it through next Thursday night when we have our special meeting.
Right, thank you.
Dr. Matthews, or if I can, we just want to reiterate, we sort of have a time change. This might be a good time to mention. Don't we have a time change for our next meeting?
Yeah, it's really going to start about 7:30 because we have the adult ed graduation at 6 o'clock next Thursday. And then after that, we'll meet back here. There's a possibility we might meet at the high school to see some of the location of some of the space there. But we just want to, but the meeting will begin at 7:30.
Okay, so we'll make sure that information's posted on the website.
Yep.
We're meeting at the high school first. Okay. I just want to say, on behalf of the board, thank you so much for representing the larger committee. I know that there were several other people there, but we appreciate you being here with us tonight and explaining things to us. And really, I appreciate you sharing your personal stories too, because it's good to get that perspective of where you come from and why you're here and all of that as well. So thank you. It's kind of an exciting time here in Novi. So and you guys were all very enthusiastic and excited about it. So it's fantastic. It's kind of contagious. So appreciate you being here. And now.
And you can stay if you'd like,
Yes.
but
You can, because we've got our student board member here. I knew you were going to come. So we are going to postpone our comments just briefly to allow our middle school student to introduce himself and give us the report from the middle school, if you wouldn't mind.
No problem. Hi, I'm Chayan Pendiboina. I'm a 7th grader, and on the student council, I'm the president. Recently in the middle school, we held our 8th grade farewell event on Friday, May 31st. This event went after school. It was attended by over 300 8th graders. We are very grateful to our PTO because they honestly put the funding for the celebration. We had a DJ, a photo booth, and a gigantic slide, pizza, snacks, and cupcakes. It was a great way to spend the final afternoon together as 8th graders. I will experience it next year, but all my 8th grade friends told me how it was. A special thank you to our student council for planning the event and all the teachers that helped chaperone. Also, on Monday, June 3rd, our students attended an assembly where they learned about fake news. MediaWise is a groundbreaking digital literacy project that aims to teach 1 million teenagers how to sort facts from fiction online by the year 2020. While teens are generally regarded as a digitally savvy, research from Stanford University Education Group shows that the vast majority of teenagers have trouble navigating the digital information. Whether it's viral hoaxes on Instagram, misinformation, campaigns on Facebook, or sponsored content on news websites, these presenters explain social media and misinformation and taught us tips and strategies to avoid falling the misinformation online. Students enjoyed the presentation. Thank you to Ms. Welsner, our media specialist, for bringing this program to us. Also, on May 31st, every student received a cupcake and certificates on achievement for 2018 to 2019 school year. It was a great way to help wind down the school year as we got to our final weeks of class. A very special thank you to our PTO moms, Mrs.
Stassinopoulos,
Jackie, and Mrs. Serrani. They organized so many wonderful things for our school, and we really appreciate it. Their latest effort is placing new pictures on our hallway. The pictures are of students at work, at play, and in general just being middle schoolers. We invite you all to come and see the pictures. They're so awesome.
well, we appreciate you being here. Before you leave, I do have a little something for you for spending some time with us.
Oh my God, thank you.
It's not as big as the slide. No.
Giant cupcake.
But we do appreciate you sending someone up, and are you going to be maybe joining us again next year as an 8th grader?
So I'll try my best.
All right, well, we hope that we see you again. But thank you again for supplying us with information, and it is enjoyable to listen to you
I
because.
don't know. I learned a lot every time I was here. Cool stuff.
Good. Well, we look forward to seeing you again. We'll keep our fingers crossed that the election goes well for you. Next, we have our first opportunity for comments from the audience. This is an opportunity for comments related to our agenda items only. If there is anyone that would like to address the board, we would just ask that you fill out a green card, come to the podium, and then Mrs. Holly will get the green card at the end. And Mr. Mena will time you if you run over 5 minutes. He will let you know. Anybody want to speak to the board this evening on agenda items? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our consent items. We just have 3 items on here: the approval of minutes, approval of the 1920 MASB membership, and approval of the 1920 MHSAA membership resolution. We need to do those for the coming year. They are expiring. So I would entertain a motion on our consent items. Thank you, Mrs. Hood.
I move that the Novi Community Schools Board of Education accept consent items A, B, and C
Support.
as presented.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Hood, supported by Mr.
There's
Mena.
a D here. There's a D on the list.
We're just seeing if you're paying attention.
So, yes, just A, B, and C. So I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries on consent items 7-0. Next are action items. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. The first action item this evening is our personnel report, and I will turn it over to Dr. Kinzer. And tonight you should enjoy a short report because next time it will not be so short.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. This evening, just one recommendation. It is a resignation. Amy Hepp, Media Parapro at Novi Meadows.
All right, I would entertain a motion first. Thank you, Mrs. Hood.
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopts the personnel report recommendations as presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mr. Smith. Any discussion on the item? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of accepting the personnel report as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Motion carries 7-0. Next on our agenda is our Chartwell's contract renewal. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. And as you know, we contract out with Chartwell's for our food service, and I will let Ms. Minnick kind of explain why this is on the agenda this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Excuse me. At the June 2nd, 2016 Board of Education meeting, Chartwell's was approved to continue to serve as the district's food service management company. The district has the option to renew that contract annually for up to 4 additional years, which requires annual approval by the Board of Education. The district renewed the contract for 17-18 and again for 18-19. A renewal for 19-20 would be the third of those 4 renewals. MDE is also required to approve the renewal before being presented to the Board of Education, and we received that approval on May 13th. District administration has been extremely satisfied with the work performed by Chartwell's, and especially by Eval Gazzarato, our Director of Nutrition and Food Services. Chartwell's, the food service management contract renewal is being presented tonight for information. Was presented for information and discussion at our last board meeting, and it is being brought to the board this evening for approval.
All right. I would entertain a motion. Mr. Smith.
I move that in the best interest of the Novi Community School District, the Board of Education approve Chartwell's to continue to serve as the district's food service management company by renewing their contract for a 3rd year.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Smith and supported by Mr. Cook. I don't know, is there any additional discussion on the item? I know this was thoroughly presented to us. We even had a wonderful report by Yvonne, who's here again with us tonight, on what our food service is doing this year. I was impressed as well.
I just suggest a sample pizza.
maybe after we approve.
Okay.
Um,
Or a
okay.
cupcake.
I will call the question. All those in favor of renewing the contract with Chartwell's, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is our 2019 summer tax levy. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you. This exciting item comes to the board annually, and so I will turn to Ms. Minnick.
Thank you. In order to prepare the July 1 property tax bills, the district must certify the summer tax levy no later than early June. The 2019, also 1920 fiscal year taxable value of the Novi Community School District is about $2.4 billion. This is an increase of 4.61% over the previous year's taxable value. And using the district's taxable value as the predominant factor, the 1920 budget will be based upon these millage rates in your board books. To the homeowner, the district's total millage levy will be 11.2645 mils, which is an increase of 0.1189 mils from last fiscal year. This equates to an increase in property taxes of about $11.89 per $100,000 of taxable value. At the November 15, 2018 board meeting, the Novi Board of Education resolved to levy 50% of the taxes in summer and 50% of our taxes in the winter. The certification of the 2019 summer tax levy was presented for information at the May 23rd board meeting and is recommended for approval at tonight's meeting.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Minnick. I would entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Maroney.
That the Novi Community School District Board of Education, in the best interest of the school district, resolve to levy 50% of the taxes in the summer.
Support. It's been moved by Ms. Maroney and supported by Mrs. Ruskin. Are there any additional questions or discussion for Ms. Minnick on this item? Oh, this is just something we need to do every year in order to divide the payments so that it doesn't all hit people at once.
That's
basically. Okay. I will call the question. All those in favor? The tax levy, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Motion carries 7-0. Next is our 6th grade robotics course equipment and services bid package. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. I will turn to Dr. Weber to talk about this proposal. At our previous board meeting, the board approved the curriculum, and this is to approve the course equipment. Dr. Weber.
And actually, I think I'm going to pitch this to Ms. Minnick if possible, because she
That'd be
was the
fun.
brains behind all of it.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. On May 14th, 2019, the bids for the 6th grade robotics course equipment and service were opened and publicly read aloud. The related course proposal and curriculum was presented to the Board of Education at its regular meetings on April 25th and approved at the May 28th board meeting, also discussed on May 9th. The district received one bid in response to the RFP for this purchase, which will be funded from the 2014 Bond Fund, Capital Projects Funds. The bid summary is attached in your board books, and it is recommended that the board award the purchase to Kamau LLC in the amount of $99,765. The bid for equipment and service was presented at the May 23rd, 2019 regular meeting for information and discussion, and is recommended for award of the bid at tonight's board meeting.
Great. I would entertain a motion. Dr. Ruskin, excuse me.
That the Novi Community School District Board of Education awards the 6th grade robotics course equipment and service purchase to Kamau LLC in the amount of $99,765. Further, that the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations be authorized to expend the funds from the 2014 Capital Project Bond Funds.
Support.
All right, it's been moved by Dr. Ruskin and supported by Mr. Mena. Any additional discussion or comments? I know we had several opportunities at the last meeting. Oh, Mr. Cook?
I have a question. We have a 1-year service and support agreement. Is that above and beyond any warranties that they would have on equipment?
No, the robot itself includes a 2-year warranty.
So this is service and support for
Bug fixes, software updates, those kinds of things.
beyond that 2 years?
So beyond the first year of service and support, that allows the district to negotiate or consider what type of level of support we will need after that first year of implementation. And it gives us that flexibility to determine what that service support level will be for years 2 and beyond.
Okay. I will call the question. All those in favor of the bid package on the 6th grade robotics course and equipment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, our next item we are moving on to information discussion. Our first item on that is administrative contract renewal. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you. We have a series of administrative contract renewals. There's 4 in total. The first one is for building level and director contract renewals. So the administrative contracts of the listed administrators expire on June 30th, 2020. Based on their evaluations and their job performance, it is recommended that the superintendent be authorized to extend the following administrative contracts through June 30th of 2021. And you will see the listed administrators there. The change in salary will be finalized after the state budget is determined. And so we bring this tonight for information and discussion. This is, we've kind of gotten into the sequence of, they have a 2-year contract. We extend after 1 year if their evaluation warrants that. And so these administrators, their evaluation warrants extension, and so we would bring that to the board for consideration and a vote on June 20th. The second item is the assistant superintendent contract renewals. They also likewise have 2-year contracts. Their contract expires, and we would like to extend it through June 30th of 2021. And those are Dr. Weber, Ms. Minnick, and Dr. Kinzer. And again, changes in salary would be determined after the state budget has been decided. And then an item that we discussed in our budget discussions this year is with recent retirements, there's an opportunity to restructure our administrative personnel based on the needs of the district and the responsibilities of the administrative staff. The following administrators will have new roles and responsibilities. And it is recommended that the superintendent be authorized to extend the following administrative contracts through June 30th, 2021. And they would be for Ann Hansen to become the Director of Early Childhood Education and Community Programs, Linda Chian-Farah to become the Director of Adult and Alternative Education, Darby Hoppenstadt to be the Director of Student Support Services, and Jeff Dinkelman would continue in the Director of Student Growth and Accountability, but with expanded responsibilities in that area. So we would bring that to the board as well. And then finally, the superintendent contract. The current contract between the school district board of education and the superintendent was extended in 2017 for the years of 2017 and 18, 2018, 19, and 2019 and 20. The current contract between the Novi Community School District Board of Education and the superintendent states the board, at its sole discretion, will vote whether to extend the contract for an additional 2 years during the second year of the contract. With 2018-19 being the second year of the contract, this comes to the Novi Community School District Board of Education for consideration this evening. Based on conversations with the board committee and the superintendent, this provision would be postponed until the completion and approval of Dr. Matthews' evaluation for the 2018-19 school year, but no later than the first board meeting in September. Any contract modification and extensions would be effective beginning with the 2019-20 school year. Extension and modification of the contract will be considered by the board no later than the first board meeting in September. So those are the administrative contract renewals that we bring to the board for consideration this evening if there is discussion about them, and they would come back to the board for approval on June 20th.
Is there discussion on any of the contracts? Mr. Mena did point out that the Orchard Hills principal is not there, but board members.
Orchard Hills principal is not listed because she is a contracted employee, and she actually works through EDGE staff, and so we don't bring it to the board for approval because technically she is not a board employee. She's an EDGE staff employee. And so as a result, her contract, we coordinate with our contracted service provider, which is EDGE staff.
We used to have several that were.
We did. Sue Burnham was in that category. Our previous food service director, I think, was in that category. But that is not an uncommon thing that many boards of education did several years ago when there were budget considerations. These staff, like Ms. Quiddiquit, were able to retire from official district employment, and we would then contract back, which would save the district money.
Are there other items within there that board members have questions about?
And if questions arise in the 2 weeks before June 20th, be sure to send me an email or call me, and I will get answers to the full board.
We've had some discussion on the director changes. The other ones are just renewal of contract. So, all right, well, seeing none, we will move on to, oh, there you are. Like she left. That's our budget. Is our 2018-19 final budget. Dr. Matthews.
Correct. The board is required to approve a final budget amendment, if there is one, for the current school year, which is 2018-19. And tonight, Ms. Minnick will present that final budget amendment to us. Ms. Minnick?
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. It's my pleasure to present to you the final budget amendment proposed for this school year. And following the standard format, let's take a look at the budget from a high-level summary. The amendment includes simply an increase in revenue of about $229,000 and an increase in expenditures of about $205,000, resulting in only a nominal change in our fund balance, and it does keep our fund balance as a percentage of expenditures unchanged. So taking a closer look at revenues separately from expenditures, we can see in our revenues that change of $229,000 occurs in the state revenue line item. And that is a result of changes in what we call 147E UAAL revenues. Those are sometimes referred to as MIPSR's retirement flow-throughs or retirement reform revenues. Yet I want to clarify that 147E is related to the most recent retirement reform. 147C are all those buckets of money that are pass-through revenues. So this is in addition to our budget with no additional corresponding expenditures. Taking a look at the final budget amendment to the expenditures at a higher level, we can see that we're adding $155,000 to our pupil support services area. And that's being added to the budget because that's an area where I had reduced that budget at the mid-year amendment time, and I think we're going to be very close on our final numbers there. So I wanted to be sure that we were not going to be in a position of overexpending that budget. And then I've added $50,000 to the operations and maintenance line to cover what I think are going to be some additional excess costs in our utilities because of the extended and cold, odd winter weather we've had this year. So there you can see the changes in salaries and the utilities. So what are our next steps for this final budget for this school year? We'll continue to monitor revenues and expenditures. In fact, any revenues and expenditures that we realize in July and August that pertain to this school year will be part of the books. And then we will have our audit in September, and we will move then into the 1920 budget adoption for next year. Any questions I can answer? I know it's a fairly simple budget amendment compared to prior years.
Mr. Cook?
Have we had any additional expenditures due to the moisture, the wet spring that we've had, which is one of the wettest in history? Had water ingress into any of the buildings or any areas that have washed out or anything like that?
I would say it's probably more of a kind of a transfer of costs. We didn't start to mow the lawn until recently, but we're mowing it a lot. So we've had to make some adjustments in our athletic contests, of course, and things like that. But I don't know that we've had any additional costs. I think the timing of those costs.
So we haven't had any, ingress of water to any of the buildings?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
So this comes to the board tonight as a way to kind of finalize the 18-19 budget, and would come back to the board for approval on June 20th.
Thank you. And next is, are we ready to move on? I know that was presented to the Finance Committee, so we dove into it with Ms. Minnick and asked several questions at the Finance Committee. So we can move on to our 2019-20 preliminary budget. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. The state requires that all school districts adopt a budget for the upcoming fiscal year by June 30th of each year. An editorial comment, even though we don't know what our state budget will be, we are required by June 30th to adopt a budget. The proposed budget document for the 2019-20 fiscal year has been prepared based on projections and estimates, including student enrollment, which will be known at a later date. The proposed budget document is presented to the board tonight for review. The budget adoption process for an upcoming fiscal year must include a public hearing, which we will have on June 20th, a notice of such public hearing, which must appear in the local newspaper at least 6 days prior to the hearing, a budget document made available for public inspection, including the proposed property tax millage rate, and the board adoption of the budget in the form of the 2019-20 General Appropriations Act resolution. Once the public budget hearing has taken place, the board adopts the budget. This year, the public hearing will be held Thursday, June 20th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the regular meeting of the Board of Education. The notice will appear in the local newspaper on Thursday, June 13th, 2019, and the budget document will be available for public inspection at the Educational Services Building beginning Tuesday, June 11th, 2019. The proposed budget document is presented to the board tonight for review with the adoption in the form of the 2019-20 General Appropriations Act resolution, which you have draft copies attached, and will be voted on at the June 20th, 2019 regular board meeting. So tonight, Ms. Minnick will review these budget documents with you. Ms. Minnick.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Just to add on to Dr. Matthews' comments, it has been a bit of a different budget season for us this year. We had the executive budget proposal from the governor, and then we have the Senate budget proposal. But until about 10 o'clock this morning, we did not have a House proposal. We did have the revenue estimating conference, and in previous board discussions, we've agreed that we will take a very conservative approach to our budgeting initially, and once those state aid numbers are known, we will certainly go ahead and amend the 1920 budget sooner than we normally would, so we can account for and recognize any changes in those state revenues. So at this time, again, taking a look at the budget summary from a high level, we can see that we have about $350,000 budgeted as an increase in our revenues. We have about $1.4 million budgeted as an increase in our expenditures over the final amendment that I just presented. And that does relate to, or results in, a lesser ending fund balance, but yet, as a percentage of our expenditures, it remains above our 10% fund balance for policy. Looking more closely at the revenues, we can see that the addition is the state revenue line item, which is simply a projection of an additional 40 students. That's a conservative approach to that projection. It is in line with multiple years history in projecting our pupils. And we believe that although we have seen a steady increase in our projections of more than 40 students over the last couple of years, we expect that that will level out and likely in the coming year. So there's the new enrollments. Looking at expenditures, we see budgeted increases in our expenditures for instructional costs of about $772,000 and an increase in our budgeted costs of non-instructional dollars of about $600,000. Looking at the pupil support services and instructional support service line items, at the top of the list of the non-instructional costs, those costs are still primarily in the classroom. According to state accounting, we label those as non-instruction, yet they do support the instructional goals. And those expenditures are based on certain assumptions. We anticipate additional staffing to accommodate additional student growth, 11.3 FTE general education teachers, 1 English language teacher, 1 K-4 math interventionist, 1 auditorium support, and 1 additional maintenance staff position. We know that we have 10 teacher retirements and resignations that result in savings to our budget, and the budgeted retirement rate has been published by ORS, and we are looking at the 39.31% retirement rate for mid and basic. Traditionally, we do a 3-year forecast summary of our general fund budget. And looking ahead, we see a fairly stable fund balance, both in terms of dollars and a percentage of our expenditures. Looking at the revenues, again, because of the odd situation we're in with state aid, starting with the 1920 budget as presented, Our projections for the following years are simply 40 additional students and small incremental increases for what we hope are some additions in foundation allowances and PA 18 county-wide special education revenues that equate to about $50 per pupil. Looking at the expenditure side, we don't anticipate increases in teaching staff for the 2021 fiscal year, but we do anticipate a high number of teaching staff to retire. We have a large number of FTE at the top of the scale, and that goes for 21-22 as well, where we do anticipate increasing our teaching staff of about 2 FTE. At this time, we also take a look at our recreation fund budget, and we adopt a budget for that fund. We can see that the additional changes in revenues and expenditures to that fund for next year include a modest increase of $40,000 in revenues, which is derived from property tax growth, and then also a budgeted increase in our expenditures, which accounts primarily for some planned enhancements to our playgrounds. Although those costs are included in our in the bond presentation that you just saw, we have earmarked some funds for playgrounds because we want to be sure that we can do some of those modifications before the bond process begins. So those expenditures also reflect some remaining funds for funds earmarked to the 2014 bond issue. At this time, we also adopt a budget for our food service. The increase in the revenue stemmed primarily from increases in meal sales, a la carte sales, and catering. And the expenditure side, that includes any changes to the contracts, as we just saw and approved just moments ago. But new this year, we have a new accounting pronouncement, GASB 84. And this requires some significant changes in our accounting for our student activities effective July 1st. And this accounting pronouncement states that if the district has ultimate authority in the disposition of those funds, then we must account for those activities and transactions in either the general fund or a new special revenue fund. Our food service and our recreation fund are special revenue funds. So these student activities need to be accounted in that same way, and they will no longer be recognized in an agency or an activity fund, and therefore requires board adoption of a new school activity fund. These rules are promulgated by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board and with further guidance from MDE, which has named the new fund the School Activity Fund. So I have for you this evening a proposed original budget for the new School Activity Fund. And the revenues and the expenditures are equivalent because the idea is that for students who fundraise or they take in some revenues from different sales and activities, the idea would be that they would expend those funds in the same year so that as those students fundraise, they're realizing the benefits of that fundraising, which occurs now. So that's why those revenues and expenditures are aligned. The beginning fund balance is where I anticipate our current student activities fund balance to land at June 30th, so that would be our starting fund balance. And then because the revenues and expenditures are equal, there would be no change in that ending fund balance. So as we alluded to earlier, we are going to continue to monitor those state budgets. We anticipate a consensus budget to be released at some point. And then once we have that, we will update our revenue and our expenditure projections, and we will amend our 1920 original budget. Are there any questions that I can answer for you at this time?
There's no questions. Dr. Ruskin.
I have 2 questions. So as we monitor the state budget, do we anticipate, since the numbers were released this morning on the House piece of it, that we'll have that like a lowest possible projection prior to the vote that we will be taking on June 20th?
Potentially and hopefully.
Okay.
The House recommended for Novi would be about a $90 per pupil increase, which would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
There are some changes, though, not behind the scenes, but corresponding to that increase. For instance, the $25 per high school student would be going away, but we would be potentially earning $25 per student enrolled in CTE classes, in addition to what we're getting now. So there's quite a few other things in our categoricals that would change that, because that was just released this morning, I want to spend a little more time looking at. But I think it may be indicative of what the consensus budget may turn out to be.
Great. I do have one more question, do you mind?
Certainly not.
In regards to the school activity fund, the new budget that needs to come along, is there a way to account for, because I know that the funds will be spent and then the new school year starts at a zero balance, I'm assuming?
We would treat that like we do now. We would carry over the remaining funds.
Okay.
So currently in the student activity fund, it's considered a liability to the district because it's not district money. So those balances continue to carry over year after year. So in this budget, we would take remaining balances and that would become the next year's starting point for revenues and then add on any additional anticipated fundraising. So I'm glad you brought that point up. That's an important
I just feel
point.
like some of the PTOs and some of the groups that roll the money, into this budget, they don't do their fundraising in the summer, so if it was just washed away, they would be in a really bad position to be able to start the school year.
Certainly. And it's been acknowledged by our auditors and the state of Michigan that although we are adopting a budget, we really don't have an idea of how much fundraising may really occur and how they may spend those funds.
Great.
So while it is our best guess at this time, it's certainly going to change over the year.
Thank you.
Other questions for Ms. Minnick? This was another thing that Jill went over with us in the Finance Committee as well, and I thank you for the thorough presentation. I know it's a balancing act in some ways to put it together at this point without having actual numbers. So appreciate your best guesstimate scenarios that you've given us, and we will look for, if there are updates, certainly get them out to us so that we can review those before the 20th. If those numbers are going to change significantly, that would be fantastic, because we will have a meeting on, we have a work session on the 13th.
Correct.
I'm just thinking that if there are numbers, we have 2 weeks, so that would be great to have the opportunity to look those over and get any other questions to you that we might have.
We'll certainly communicate those to you, and when we amend the budget, we will certainly take into account any other changes we're aware of, whether it's federal, local dollars, what have you. They'll all be rolled into that amendment.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you again. I appreciate all the hard work on that. Next is our second opportunity for comments from the audience. This is an opportunity to address us about anything within our jurisdiction. We do have people in our audience tonight, but they're not rushing the podium. So we will go ahead and move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. I would like to report that the Novi High School girls soccer team won 4-0 this evening. And so they will go into the state semifinals, which is next Wednesday evening in Holt, Michigan. So that's very exciting for them. I would also like to thank the Facilities and Program Committee for their work. The board has some exciting decisions to make in the near future. And I would encourage the board to review the information. And if you have questions or concerns, please feel free to share those with me so that we can address them next week when we meet. Before our next Board of Education meeting, regular meeting, on June 20th, school will have ended for the year. I would like to thank everyone for a wonderful year. We have much of which to be proud. It's a wonderful school district filled with wonderful students, parents, and staff. And I want to thank everyone for all their work this year. And I wish everyone to have a great summer. We will continue to work throughout the summer and on projects big and small so that we're ready for school to begin on September 3rd.
Early start this year. Perfect. Next are administrative reports. Ms. Minnick.
Thank you. I want to report to the board that last week, May 28th through the 31st, our auditors, our external auditors, Plant Moran, were on site to begin this year's fiscal audit, financial audit. And although we still have time left in our school year and we're still expending and receiving monies, they were able to look at payroll and accounts payable and cash deposits and develop a framework for the official audit that starts in September. And no concerns were expressed at this time. So that's good news, and they have been reviewing our internal controls and our bidding processes and those kinds of things. So that's good news. I also want to mention, just to add on to the GASB 84 conversation, I did meet with our PTO, various PTO groups, our inter-school PTO, and I've also met with our administrators to discuss how GASB 84 may impact their operations. And we do need to, according to the rules, remove our PTOs from under our umbrella. And so I'm working with them to assist them in setting up their own tax ID number if they need one. Not all of them need one. And to assist them in that process of setting up their own bank accounts. And if they need any assistance in setting up their own procedures, I'm happy to do that. So we have started those conversations. And I've also met, like I said, with our administrative staff, our athletic director, who will be, there will be some significant changes in how we account for those transactions, just simply because of the new fund. So those conversations are taking place, and they will evolve over the next 3 to 6 months. I've involved our auditors in how we are approaching these significant changes, and they are on board with our approach.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Kinzer.
Thank you. As Dr. Matthews mentioned earlier, our June 20th personnel report will be filled with exciting new hires. I just wanted to assure you our administrators have been working very hard throughout the district, interviewing and hiring teachers and other employees. So I'm really looking forward to our June 20th meeting when I can introduce them all to you.
Great. We look forward to it too. Dr. Weber.
Yes, grateful to our Board of Education for supporting the 6th grade robotics experience. That's in addition to a robust approach to providing an equity of opportunity around STEM for our students. So thank you for that. And today, June 6, 2019, marks 75 years since D-Day. And my grandfather flew 2 missions over Normandy on this day. He was a turret gunner in the Royal Air Force. And then Joe Rodriguez was a Marine who actually was with the unit that rose the flag on Mount Suribachi at Iwo Jima. And I don't know if they can key in on this picture. But I had the good fortune when I was a teacher in South Lyon to have Joe come and speak to all of my 7th grade and 8th grade students. He was from Ann Arbor and came over. His parents left Mexico. They lived in a boxcar near what's now the Andy Dancer. He wouldn't lied about his age. He was 17 on Saipan, and came in and shared this story with our students. It was just absolutely amazing. So on a day like today, and I think about Dwight Eisenhower in the morning of June 6th, and it was pretty simple. And the leadership that he had, he looked at the reports, took about 35 seconds, and said, "Okay, we'll go." Got up and left the room. And honoring the generations that gave us the ability to believe in things like a free and compulsory high-quality public education, knowing that out of 16 million people who fought in World War II, I think there are about 500,000 who might be left. And it was really cool. I don't know if you guys caught it, these 97-year-old dudes jumping out of their C-47s over Normandy. And the guy gets down on the ground and he says, "I'll do it again. I want to go back up."
Yeah.
So may all of us live the type of life that honors their sacrifice and also gives us the spunk and the spirit to jump out of an airplane at 97. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Next are our committee reports. Would you
yes.
like to comment on the Finance Committee?
Sorry, I'm
That's
just
okay.
talking. The Finance Committee met, and we discussed the items that Mrs. Minnick reviewed with us this evening. And I won't paraphrase GASB 84, but it was basically most of the information that we went through tonight, the 18, 19, and 19, 20 budgets.
All right, and next is Capital Projects Committee.
So Capital Projects met on May 30th. We had a number of topics to discuss, including bringing forth a recommendation regarding potentially an owner's rep, architect, and construction managers. So you'll have some additional information forthcoming on that. We did have significant discussion regarding a robotics space. Had discussions, a lot of discussion around the bond amount that we're potentially going out for, as well as scheduling for forthcoming meetings and presentation. A lot that was already announced here today, including our work session on the 13th.
Okay. Terrific. I would like to, since it's committee reports, we are going to do a curriculum committee. I had conversations with Dr. Weber and Dr. Matthews about it, and Mrs. Roney is actually going to chair that committee. She's agreed to chair it. Mr. Smith and Mr. Mena have also agreed to serve on that committee. So I'll let you guys coordinate timing of that. I know there's some things that Sheila Ebel has indicated are coming up with the health curriculum that she wanted to have some initial conversations about. So obviously, timing maybe before the school is out, I don't know, but that would be fantastic. Next is board communication. This opportunity, I know we've been involved in a lot of stuff. We were at graduation, which was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing the snow day video and several other things. But Mr. Mena.
Yeah, just want to let you know that the Novi High School is hosting the Girls Lacrosse State Championship for Division I and Division II this Saturday. So once again, you know, our district has had the opportunity, or is being given more and more opportunities to host these great events here. So, you know, kudos especially to our athletic department for that.
Okay. Other communication from board members?
I just want to say I've enjoyed graduation in this season. It's been really fun to celebrate our students and to go to all these events to celebrate them. And I haven't had a graduate here from Novi yet, but I'm super sad that the seniors are gone, just like they're my own. So I look on Twitter and to think that they're not coming back to our schools. But it's a great opportunity for them, and as we wish them well. So
we've really had some unique opportunities to interact with them this year with the strategic planning and some of the other things. So it has
a great class of students.
Feels a little more personal for some reason. I know that 3 of us went to the turnaround lunch. Mrs. Roney was there, as well as Dr. Ruskin, and that's the middle school has a little turnaround lunch, which is, Meadows, for students that have really managed to do an about face, whether it's behavior or homework or participation in class or whatever, and that was a really neat, it's always a really neat day to hear students that get up and speak in front of all these adults at the tender age of whatever, 11, 12. So they did a fantastic job, and it was lovely meeting some of our other parents too, that and grandparents and aunts and uncles, because it really brings out a lot of different people. So that was another fun end of year event. It was a little later this year than it usually is, which was really kind of nice. Anybody else? Other board members? No? Hopefully we'll see a lot of you at the soccer match. I know that I saw Dr. Matthews at West Bloomfield before they made it to the next one. It was an exciting match. All right. Well, we have a lot more to come. So our next meeting will be on the 13th. We will meet for the adult ed graduation. I think, Mrs. Holly, you were collecting RSVP, so if anybody can make it that hasn't, let Ms. Holly know if you could do that, just so they have enough seats and not too many on the stage for us. And then after that, we'll get direction from Dr. Matthews whether we'll go straight over to the high school.
We'll announce that early in the week, so if anybody wants to come.
And then we can make sure that's posted on our on the notice for our meeting. All right. I think that's it. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved by Mr. Cook, supported by Mr. Mena. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. It is 8:19. Thanks for joining us this evening, gentlemen.